Good evening. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education meeting. It is February 22nd, 2022, 7 p.m. Here is your board president, Ms. Namjack.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I would like to make a first reading, as we always do, with respect to our rules. All meetings of the Board of Education are open to members of the public unless publicly noticed as a confidential closed session as allowed by law. Members of the public may address the board as outlined in the public comment section of the agenda. The audio of all meetings is recorded, and a member of the public may be held liable for any slanders or otherwise defamatory statements. In consideration of the board and members of the audience, please turn off, silence your cell phones while in the boardroom, including our board members. The San Marino Unified School District encourages those with disabilities to participate fully in the public meeting process. If you need a disability-related modification or accommodation, including auxiliary aids or services, to participate in the public meeting, contact the assistant to the superintendent at jdelatore@smusd.us or 626-299-7000 extension 1310 at least 48 hours before the scheduled board meeting so that we may make every reasonable effort to accommodate you. Documents provided to the majority of the board regarding an open session item on this agenda will be made available for public inspection in the district office located at 1665 West Drive, San Marino, during normal business hours. In addition, such writings and documents may be viewed on the district's website at www.smusd.us. In terms of public comments, the Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the school district. Persons who wish to provide public comments have three options. One, submit an online form. Two, request to speak during the meeting via Zoom. Three, request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. With respect to submitting an online form, the public may do so for the open or closed session on February 22, 2022, from 11 a.m. through 3:30 p.m. Comments received during this time will not be read during the meeting, but will be provided to the board. Please submit comments at https://bit.liboe02222. Dr. Choi, I believe we have had no comments. Is that correct?
We did not receive any comments for closed or for open session via the online form.
All right, thank you. Request to speak during the meeting via Zoom. During the public comment, the meeting will pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. The raise hand function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue. For phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of requests received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. Dr. Choi?
Okay, I will go ahead and jump to public comments. Are we taking public comments not on the agenda first?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and pause for 1 minute to take requests for to speak on matters that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a request to speak that is not on the agenda, please press the raise hand icon if you're on Zoom, dial *9 if you're joining us by phone, or submit a public comment card. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you'd like to make a request to speak regarding matters not on the agenda, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. Okay, President Jack, we have no requests via Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Please complete the public comment card and submit the completed card to the designated drop box with the assistant to the superintendent no later than when the agenda section items not on the agenda, consent, information, or action is called by the board president. Opportunities for public comment are offered prior to closed session at the start of the regular open session for items not on the agenda and prior to the consent information and action items for matters on the agenda. The board reserves a right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. However, in the event that there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. See, there are no communications from the audience concerning matters on the closed session. So let's go to closed session. We did not have one. So there is no report. Now we call it to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, number 5A.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre. It would be my honor tonight to introduce our flag salute leaders from Valentine Elementary. I would like to invite up Jack Kang and Max and Henry McCarthy to lead our board in the flag salute tonight, and then share a little bit after the flag salute about themselves, their school, and of course, about the Guardian Angels at Valentine Elementary.
Please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the Guardian Angels at Valentine Elementary?
Well, I'd like to invite our Guardian Angel coordinator, Audrey McCarthy, up, and then also Jennifer Kang, whose husband Q is the one who replaced or built and refurbished, along with the big crew of families, these garden boxes at Valentine. They were originally an Eagle Scout project, and you can see before and after. There's a huge transformation. And these guys right here were really involved in all of it. So I just want to say thank you.
Before you leave, gentlemen, we're going to present you with a certificate. So we're going to ask you to come right up here and the board president to come around so we can take a photograph with you right up here. Thank you. Okay. And there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna open it like this and then just show it off to the camera. There you go. All right. So 1, 2, and okay, thank you so much. Very nice job. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, the Kane family, and thank you, the McCarthy family.
Yes, thank you.
We are now to action item number 5B on the agenda, approval of the agenda. I would like to have a motion made to approve the agenda with the modification that we did not have closed session as we did not need one. So with that modification, would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
I would like to make that motion, but also one minor correction under 11C. Looks as though there might be a minor typo with regard to the name of the musical. To be Music Man.
Thank you. as opposed to Music Man Junior.
Well, as opposed to the revolutionary music. Man.
That's right. Thank you, thank you. Mr. Kalaki makes the motion. Would someone like to second?
Second?
All right, with that, roll call vote, Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Chan. Aye. Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
school board member.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now come to public comments. No, we now go to 5C, approval of minutes, action item, the approval for February 8th, Board of Education meeting minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to
Ah.
approve the minutes.
Mr. Chang, was there a second?
Second, oh, go ahead, Mrs. Chong.
Mrs. Chan, roll call vote, Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Chan.
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Namjack, aye. We now come to public comments. Procedural item, Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the school district. Persons who wish to make public comments have three options. One, submit through an online form. Two, request to speak during the meeting via Zoom. Request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. To submit an online form, the public may submit public comments for the open or closed session on February 22 from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. It's our understanding there was nothing for either open or closed. Is that correct? Dr.
Correct.
Choi?
That was
All right.
submitted.
So request to speak during the meeting via Zoom. During public comment, the meeting will pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. The raise hand eye function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue. For phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of requests received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. We have already done that. Is that correct? Or are we going to do that now?
We did do the public comment period for not on the agenda on Zoom.
All right.
But I wasn't sure if there were any cards submitted.
Yes, so
for-
now we'll get to that.
Okay,
Thank you. Now we're request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Please complete the public comment card and submit the completed card to the designated drop box from the assistant to the superintendent no later than when the agenda section. Items not on the agenda, consent information action is called by the board president. Opportunities for public comment are offered prior to the closed session, at the start of the regular open session for items not on the agenda, and prior to the consent information action items for matters on the agenda. The board reserves the right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated for each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. Communications from the audience regarding matters not on the agenda are to be made at this time. And I believe we have one public comment card for a topic not on the agenda for indoor mask policy. I would like to invite Mr. Ward Robinson up to the podium. Thank you, Mr. Robinson, for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me and for letting me have this chance to talk. I have about just under 6 minutes and I'm going to try to cram and say fast into 5 minutes. And if I can go a few extra seconds, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay. Good evening. My name is Ward Robinson. I have a daughter at Valentine Elementary and I have another one that will be there next year. Let me start by saying I do not want to be here. I do not want to be speaking in this moment, but I greatly appreciate the chance. Speaking at this meeting is not something that I would choose to do for myself. I'm here to speak for the children and the students of the school district that do not have a voice in adult conversations. Let me be clear. I'm here to speak about removing the indoor mask mandate situation, but I am not anti-mask. I believe that any parent, student, teacher, or administrator that chooses to wear a mask indoors has that right. I also believe that the same people should have the ability to choose a maskless indoor school day. We are coming up on 2 complete calendar years now where students in the SMUSD schools have either been taught via Zoom or via a mask teacher. LA County Health Department recently removed the mandate that forced school children in the county to wear a mask outside. That is now optional. That is long overdue, but it is a mild success on the road to a full choice. It has been stated that we are following the guidance of LA County and the health department in these decisions. My suggestion here is that it is time for the school district itself to look at one another and make its chance to take its own stance. No one's hands are tied here other than the students. Each state is making its own decisions and not aligning with the country. Cities are separating their policies from counties and so on. As a matter of fact, while California just removed a recent mandate, LA County ignored it. LA County removed its own mandate and LAUSD chose to ignore that. These are not laws, and are hardly even regulations at this point. They are merely suggested protocols. We are in a county that chose to go against the state of California's indoor mandate revision recently, while also hosting a nationally televised football game, exposing unmasked attendees by the truckloads at an indoors event. An extremely hypocritical move expressing do as I say and not as I do. It's hard to sit here and hear state leaders, county leaders, and city leaders that can attend an indoor event unmasked for entertainment purposes, yet require our students and children to wear a mask while attempting to learn and further their education only one day later inside of a school. March of 2020 brought an unknown virus that came into our lives, and we reacted accordingly with fear, emergency, and protection. This is a logical reaction to something that comes out of nowhere and hits us with no preparation. However, the current level of case rates in our country, state, county, and city are no longer as alarming, and we are not in a state of emergency. The elderly and other adults with pre-existing conditions are the most at risk, and it's not even close. Teenagers, kids, and young children are by far the least affected by this virus. There's no logical reason or justification that our school children should be wearing masks indoors at this point by mandate. By choice, that would be up to each parent, student, and administrator. By now, I'm sure you've seen that the case rates in California are down and are on par with the cases of other states across the nation. The difference is most of these, almost all of these states, have the same case rates as our state while being fully open and not masking their school children. California is one of currently only 11 states left with an indoor mask requirement. And of those 11, 2 of them are removing them on Monday, bringing it down to a total of 9 states. In our own schools, the rates are so low that we've gone days and even weeks at a time with no reported cases. Of the cases that are reported, the vast majority are met with mild symptoms that have children back in schools within days. Masking our children is no longer, if it ever did, fully stopping the spread of this virus. Let's now shift from discussing if indoor masks are helping our children and look at the fact that they could be hurting our children. There is more than ample research in our country currently revealing that test scores are down and speech development issues are on the rise, mostly in places that are still carrying indoor school mask mandates, such as California and LA County. The CDC itself has quietly raised the age of
1
milestone
minute
achievements
remaining.
and young, excuse me, I'm sorry?
1 minute remaining.
1 minute. Where was I? The CDC itself has quietly raised the age of milestone achievements in young kids to higher ages over the last 2 years. They had not changed those milestone ages of development in almost 20 years until recently. Reading and comprehension development has taken a hit for younger ages. Social anxiety amongst kids and teens is at an all-time high, not to mention the rise in child and teen suicide over the past 2 years. For parents or educators to say the kids don't really seem to care is an excuse or reasoning is lazy and complacent. If it's not a big deal to have them wear a mask indoors, then it's also not a big deal to revise the protocol and make it a choice. Let me close with this. These children are voiceless. These children are taught to respect and count on authority figures. These kids look to adults to lead them down the best path possible. 2 years ago, the best path possible was a state of emergency while we gathered information and did our research. We are no longer in that state of emergency. We are in an endemic that we must learn to live with even the state of California agreeing. We are able to live a life of breathing fresh air and visible human interaction. Think of what you as a child in school would have done and wanted parents and teachers and board members to do for you. We are in charge of leading these innocent children and these minds presenting a feeling of normalcy. Dragging their feet rather than standing up for what is right is abusive to these children. I have 3 sentences left. We have completely made major missteps over the last 2 years, but that doesn't mean we can't change it. It's on our shoulders now. Every single day these kids get back through having that choice is one less day that's stolen from them. Please revise this mandate in SMUSD schools so our teachers, teenagers, and young students can once again smile together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Okay, now communications from the audience regarding matters on the consent section are to be made at this time.
Thank you, President Jack. We're pausing for 1 minute to take requests regarding matters in the consent section. If you'd like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. We have less than 30 seconds remaining. If you'd like to make a request to speak regarding matters in the consent section, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. Hey, President Jack, we have no requests.
All right, thank you. All right, communications from the audience regarding matters on the consent agenda are to be made at this time. I believe we do not have any cards. Is that correct? All right, so now we move to the consent section. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent section?
So move.
Mrs. Ryan, is there a second?
Second,
Mrs. Chan?
I do have some questions.
All right, so discussion.
I was wondering on the contracts and agreement, there are 2 gates that are being installed at the high school. Can you elaborate more on that?
Go ahead.
One of them, I told you there is responses, that was by room 19. And the other one was, I think room 2 near the library, or excuse me, the cafeteria going towards the auditorium. I think there's a pedestrian gate.
And are these replacement gates or are these new?
They're-
newly-
Go ahead.
I think they are new.
They're new gates.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
we're just securing the perimeter.
Yes, that was important to the administration that we secure high school campus.
And then I had a question regarding the federal E-rate contract. Dr. Choi. So I just wanted to confirm all of the contracts, since we're going with the same provider, we had no issues previously, I assume.
No issues. The vendor has been very good to us for many years.
Okay. And then are we using, are the costs comparable for any upgraded or change in services?
The services are the same, but we're actually seeing some cost savings. So with the new contract, we're seeing some cost savings.
Great. Thank you. That's all.
All right.
I have a question.
Oh, Mr. Chang?
For the 2021 to 2022 Warren report, page 6, I think it's the last item. Use care of Utah Inc. Can someone explain what is the purpose?
There's warrant report.
Warren report, yeah.
Let's see.
Number 7, yeah.
Number 7.
The last page,
Mhm.
page 6.
Take care of Utah.
Yeah,
I don't know, we'll check into that.
I think that's a,
Special ed.
that's special education.
NPS is
Yeah.
one of that.
I believe it is.
I believe it's a special education program, but we'll double check that.
oh, okay,
It is.
okay,
That's a
thank you.
residential.
Okay,
Mr. Kalaki?
Yes, it's not specific to the consent items, but it's closely related. With regard to the overnight trips, I'd like to renew a prior request that I had made that the board have on a future agenda, a discussion and consideration of a policy, a district policy that chaperones for overnight trips undergo, be required to undergo background checks or live scans of some sort. Because at this point, to get onto a campus, even to drop something off in a library, you undergo a Raptor system background check. But if you were to spend 4 nights on an overnight trip, you're not necessarily required to undergo that same background check.
We just implemented with the Raptor system, a requirement that all chaperones go through the Raptor system at the school site that is hosting the trip. So that is actually happening now, effective immediately. So they go through our chaperone training program, and then they are required to take their driver's license or California ID and swipe it through the Raptor system. And the school site administrative assistant will keep a list of those who are cleared to attend the field trip.
Okay, so is that it's not a formal district policy, it's an administrative process?
Yes, it's an administrative process, just as the chaperone training is an administrative process. Yeah,
Okay.
we don't, it's not a board policy.
Okay, I would like to request that we maybe have the discussion on a future
Right.
meeting.
And I don't have a problem with that, but let's go and move for the motion for the consent agenda. So there's a motion, there's a second. We've had the discussion. Roll call vote, Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Kalaki,
I,
Mr. Chang,
I,
Mrs. Chon,
Aye.
school board member?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The consent section has been approved. Communication section, communications and Board of Education, Mr. Kalaki.
since our last meeting, we've had some pretty exciting activities, including a major hailstorm in town, the San Marino blizzard of 2022. So that was very exciting. And I know that a lot of students and everybody in the community was really interested to see some beautiful pictures of our campuses with that. Also, I'm looking forward to the parent parties that are coming up at the various schools at HMS as well as Carver and Valentine. I did serve as a judge for the Lions Club speech contest, and one of our own seniors did win that contest. So that was a great opportunity to hear some really great speeches by the students. I also did attend the Science Olympiad tournament, which we're going to hear more about tonight. And so that's really everything at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Kalaki. Mr. Chang?
on the February 11, Friday, I attend the Valentine Lunar New Year Assembly. And then the same day, I also see the game for our boys basketball playoff. Thank you. You guys did a good job. Yeah. And then the next day, I observing the Science Olympic Invitational Tournament at the San Marino High School. And also thank you for our alumni of San Marino High School. You know, they helped to make this event possible. And then, as you know, I think everyone see the Super Bowl game on the Sunday. I stay home, but my two sons went to the Joffrey Stadium. And then the February 14, I attend the CSBA API School Board Seminar by Zoom. Thank you for sharing reminder. And then the February 16, I also see the girls basketball playoff game. We compete with Lancaster East Side High School. And then February 17, as a Board of Governor at the Huntington Library, I attend the Education and Volunteer Committee. So we talk about the next 5-year strategy planning, yeah, especially focus on the K-12 program. I hope we can, San Marino School District can have a more opportunity team up with Huntington Library. And then the February 17, San Marino Rotary Club, their weekly meeting, they have a speech contest. And I'm glad the high school students, they participate. And then the weekend, as my son, they study in the UCLA and the USC. So sometimes I have to be acting as like a USC fan. but Saturday I went to UCLA. They have a basketball game, compete with Washington University. Yeah. So it's a busy week.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Mrs. Chan?
Thank you. So I hung out with Mr. Chang a lot, actually. I was at the Valentine Lunar New Year celebration and both the boys and girls basketball games, as well as the Science Olympiad. In addition, I met with some other school board members in California over the last couple of weeks where we had the opportunity to share best practices and strategies to keep the focus on student success, supporting teachers in the classroom, strengthening community relations, and the role of individual board members on successful governance teams.
Thank you, Mrs. Chan. Mrs. Ryan?
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. So I too attended the boys CIF final basketball game. And there was about 40.7 seconds left. I looked over on the board and it was 80-80. And if you could have been there, if you weren't there, you would have seen how electrifying, how literally the boys had a 6-man, not only with our board, with the entire gymnasium, basically on the edge of everyone was standing up. You guys did a fabulous job. And in the end, you are winners because you are able to do what you did to take us to that game. So thank you so much. And I wanted to make sure you knew that San Marino is your 6-man. Your bench is way deeper than it looks because we were all there for you guys. Anyways, thank you. Applause goes to them, actually. Second, we also, the board attended the Science Olympiad tournament. So exciting to see some of the student entrants in terms of their projects. Very elaborate in terms of engineering and the amount of time that the kids spent on the projects, phenomenal, and just a phenomenal show for what kids can do from the middle schools to the high school. City Club hosted a guest speaker that showed us how, as an artist, you can make some money. This is a very, very well-to-do, financially very solid artist who has made a living painting on the side of buildings. And he started out on the computer and doing animation, but if you see his work, he is fabulous. So all of you artists out there, please look into that. And we've got that tape from the city club. Finally, last week, I just wanted to report out, last week, the board did its due diligence in going out for a superintendent search. Several community members spoke to me and talked to me, asked me about the cost of that. And what a wonderful job our superintendent is doing. And they asked me the question, what are we doing to keep our superintendent? So wanted to report that out, that several community members had talked to me about that. Thank you, Mrs. Jack.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryan. So I will be very quick. I too went to the basketball game, the Science Olympiad. Everything about the schools in this community makes me so excited. So the excitement is because of everything that you guys do, whether it would be teachers, principals, our administration, especially our students. So thank you very much. I would like to bring up an educational moment. Happy Tuesday, right? Today is February 22nd, 2022, apparently. And these are good Jeopardy facts, I think, if any of you guys are Jeopardy fans. And by the way, the college championship is going on at 8 o'clock. But this number, 2022, will only happen in the next 200 years. And it is a palindrome, which means it looks the same way front or back. But it also is something I didn't know about. It's called an ambigram, which means it looks the same upside down. But I tried it and it didn't look the same. Regardless, thank you. Communications from the superintendent.
Yes, thank you, President Jack, members of the board. Dr. Lynn, can you make your way up to the podium, please? I have an announcement to make. This evening, the Board of Education took action on the consent agenda to promote Dr. Michael Lynn to the Chief Business Official position, which he will assume effective June 1st of this year. And I'd just like to tell you a little bit about Dr. Lynn's background and why we made that important selection recently. Dr. Lynn received his bachelor's degree in engineering from the Cooper Union School in New York. And actually, that is where Dr. Lynn began his career and spent most of his time in his educational career was in fact in New York. He went on to receive his MBA with a concentration in computer information systems from, is it Baruch?
Yes.
College, specifically the Zicklin School of Business in New York. Dr. Lynn actually worked on Wall Street for several years. I'm not sure if people know that about you, but I think that that's very impressive. Then you went on, Dr. Lynn, to work for an e-commerce startup. And then after the tragic events of 9/11, you decided that education was in fact your calling, which was a big shift for you and for your career. And Dr. Lynn recalls the moment he had to talk to his parents about the fact that he was shifting from his MBA focus and his business focus to education. And they questioned that. They said, why would you want to do that? But really, he recognized that that was his passion and his calling, and that brought him to California, at which point he began teaching mathematics to eighth graders in the Alhambra Unified School District. So from the Alhambra Unified School District, he went over to Temple City USD, where he served as a director of curriculum and instruction. He also served as a director of information technology. And then he was principal of La Rosa School at Temple City. We were fortunate enough to steal him away from Temple City and bring him over to San Marino Unified as an assistant principal at the middle school. And he worked very closely there with students and parents and made many important connections and built relationships. And from there was promoted to the Carver Elementary School principal position in 2016, where he has spent the last many years of his career. Dr. Lynn recently completed his certificate from the California Association of School Business Officials, which is a highly revered and well-recognized association that represents and supports CBOs up and down the state of California. And actually, Pearl Izuka, our consultant for business services, is one of the instructors in that program. She also teaches at the USC program. And reports that Dr. Lynn was in fact one of their best students. So that is very encouraging. So we're super pleased to be here this evening to recognize you and support you. I have no doubt whatsoever that you're going to do an amazing job and be the absolute best CBO that this district has known. So congratulations to you, Dr. Lynn, and thank you so much for your
Thank you very much, Dr. De La Torre and the governing board, and also the San Marino Unified School District community for this opportunity where I can serve all 4 schools in the district office. It's been a great honor and privilege serving San Marino Unified School District in these years, and I look forward to many moments like it in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you and congratulations.
Dr. Lynn for agreeing to continue to serve this district, but in a different capacity. So we are very appreciative.
I'm sorry, just one more
Absolutely,
thing
yeah.
related, connected to Dr. Lynn becoming our CBO, of course. We made the announcement that we are in fact going to have 2 elementary school principal vacancies coming up for the 22-23 school year. So I just wanted to tell the board that we have drafted a timeline for the process of recruitment and advertisement of those 2 important positions. And we're going to be bringing you back more formal information very, very soon, but we will post the position as early as tomorrow on EdJoin. We are going to be going out to each of the elementary schools to solicit the input from internal stakeholders, meaning the teachers and the staff, on the traits and characteristics that they'd like to see in their next principal. In addition to that, we have been working on a survey that will go out to our parents and community, also soliciting their input on the traits and characteristics that they'd like to see in their principals coming up. So we are going to gather all of that data. We're going to look at that and really consider revising the position descriptions for those two positions. So we're going to be working on that. We will bring all of this information back to the board. We'll keep you updated, but we're very sad to see two of our best principals leaving us, but we're happy that Dr. Lynn is able to stay with us in another capacity. And we are also very happy for Alana Foray in that she's going to be moving out of state and spending more time with her family, her children and her grandchildren, which is something she's wanted to do for a very long time. So we wish her well in all of her future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Delatorre.
Can I make a comment
Sure,
related to Dr. Lin?
sure.
By the way, first of all, congratulations. But you know what? Since Dr. Delatorre promote you to the school district, so then you let I think the school board member need to make an explanation to the community because you are popular in the cover. so then I think for next couple of days I will get a lot of telephone. So maybe you can figure out a way, because you still in the school district. I think I tell the parent, you still here, you are not leaving. But I'm glad, the superintendent and the board president and the board can always recognize, the school district teacher and the staff, if they are capable, and eventually they get a promotion. I think that's the way, we make the school district better and better. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Now communications from the school board member, Karen?
No updates other than supposedly our high school's all-school musical opens March 3rd next week. So that's all.
All right, we'll be looking forward to that as well. All right, now we go to item number 10, communications from the audience regarding matters on the information agenda are to be made at this time.
We are pausing for 1 minute to take requests to speak regarding matters in the information section of the agenda. If you'd like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you'd like to make a request to speak regarding information items on the agenda, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. President, we have no requests.
All right. Terms of the information item, there is one card, but I'm going to wait until we get to that particular item. So information item 11A, San Marino High School boys varsity basketball recognition. The board would like to recognize the high school boys varsity team for winning the Rio Hondo League Championship for the first time in 41 years and for making it to the CIF playoff. So Coach Pop could come to the podium. We would love to have you speak on behalf of the boys.
President Jack, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre, SMUSD administrators, and all the guests that are here We just want to share with you guys how honored we are to be here tonight. And Board Member Ryan, when you talked to us about that six-man excitement, we really appreciate that feeling that our community did give these boys and our team, and we definitely felt it, and appreciate you sharing those words. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Mihail Papadopoulos, and I'm the head boys basketball coach for San Marino High School. 12 years ago, when I was given this opportunity to come to San Marino to be the head coach, I did so knowing that our boys basketball program had won 5 league games in 5 years. I understood that we did not have a reputation for being a very competitive high school sport. And many questioned why I decided to come to San Marino. They cited that I didn't have the basketball demographics, the academic demands were too high here at San Marino, and it just wasn't a basketball school. Growing up, I was fortunate, as were many of our coaches here, to have had coaches that believed in us as players. And we simply came here to San Marino to give them that, to our boys, and to show them that they were and always have been worthy and capable of this level of success. We were obviously thrilled that our boys accomplished so many firsts this season. And to be honest with you, I could talk to you about these boys all day long. I just felt that it'd be more meaningful tonight to allow our senior captains to maybe say a little something about our season. And I would just want to introduce our seniors here, Kyle Yu, Aiden Wong, Michael Zinge, and Mason Lowe.
Hello, my name is Kyle Yu, and I'm one of the 4 seniors captains, along with my teammates and friend Aiden Hong. As many of you may know, this team accomplished a goal that hasn't been done in 40 years, a Rio Hondo League championship. From the start of the season, that was the goal that we committed to, and we put in 110% effort day in and day out, whether it was scrimmaging in practice, watching film late at night, or getting buff in the weight room. We started our season off strong in our pre-league games, going 12-1 and winning both the Web tournament and the Poly tournament. With such a successful start, our coaches reminded us that the job isn't finished and to keep working. After taking care of Temple City and Blair in our season openers, we came up short in our intense rival game against South Pasadena. We learned from this loss and went on to win the next 6 league games. The most notable of these 6 games were our wins against La Cañada and South Pasadena. It was the first time since 1990 that we beat La Cañada in our home gym, and it was our revenge game against the South Pasadena team to secure the Rio Hondo League championship. I was told that many of the board members here attended these thrilling games, and I'm sure that you're in awe of the powerful atmosphere our community created in the Dingus Memorial Gymnasium. Some other achievements I will recognize are that we were ranked #1 in Division IV AA for the majority of the season, ranked #4 in the state of Division IV, and ranked #5 in San Gabriel Valley among all schools in all divisions. Unfortunately, our memorable season came to a close in our CIF playoff game against University High School, but it does not discredit all of the success this team has earned. I would like to thank Coach Pop for his dedication and hard work to the San Marino basketball program. He inspires us as student athletes and instills values of grit and commitment that will help us through the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Hi guys. So I would like to talk about my experience at San Marino High School. So coming in as a new student, I didn't expect myself to, get along with new people, and I didn't think I would fit in, right? But all these guys tried to treat me like someone like family, and the coaches, including Coach Pop, like all of our friendship, it was more of like a friendship and brotherhood, as Coach Pop says it. And being able to experience basketball for my last year was honestly a true blessing and something I will never forget. That's all I have to really say, to be honest, because I didn't write anything down, but.
My name is Michael Zinge, and I'm one of the senior captains for the basketball team. And our program has given us an opportunity to develop incredible relationships with our brotherhood and our fans. The program has also taught us how to earn and not be given anything for success. And lastly, it has given us a chance to showcase our incredible hard work and ethic and our determination. In many ways, this reflects our incredible San Marino community.
I'm Mason, and next we would like to thank our former league champions, the 1981 boys basketball team, for inspiring us to finally bridge the gap between good and great. We'd also like to thank you, our school board, our school administrators, and especially our athletic director, Mr. Irie, who has been an incredible support in navigating us through such a chaotic time. And lastly, a big thanks to our San Marino community that served as the backbone to our fruitful season and for always believing and embodying our motto, just us Titans. Thank you.
Mr. Irie, David, could you come up here for 1 second? Could you just take a moment and just say whatever you would like for?
Come on, Dave.
And Mr. Irie, it must be you, don't you think? I mean, the girls CIF championship Division I and now the boys, it must be you.
It would never be me. It's always our coaches, it's our players, it's the community, it's everyone pulls together. And that's what we see with basketball this year. Everyone pulled together. I've said this a few times. That gym, when we played South Pass High School.
Unbelievable.
That is what high school basketball is all about, right there in a nutshell. I mean, a packed gym, you're playing your rival school, everyone's yelling and screaming the entire game. I mean, that's high school basketball. Right? That's what it's all about. You know, and I felt honored that I was a part of the audience. I was part of you, and I'm watching and I'm like, wow. I mean, it's what it's all about. So thank you for honoring our boys. They did an outstanding job this year. We're so proud of them, and many more to come in the future.
Thank you.
We are going to present to you, Mika, and congratulations to you and to your team. And
We'll take a photo with the entire
yes,
board.
if we can get the team up here, front and center. We're going to take the photograph.
Mr. Irie?
So,
We gotta get the eyes.
Everybody look here. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. I did.
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. Was that good?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, do you have enough room?
Yeah.
Now we're going to go to item number 11B, the San Marino Science Olympiad Invitational Tournament Recognition. Mr. Vincent C. There you are. The Board of Education would like to recognize the students of Huntington Middle School and the high school who participated in the San Marino Science Olympiad. Huntington Middle School students placed 4th and 8th, and San Marino High School students placed 3rd and 6th. Mr. Vincent C., thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing tonight?
We're doing very well, thank you.
Pleasure and honor to be here today. Some of you may know, 2 Saturdays ago,
we held our first ever invitational tournament for the Southern California Science Olympiad here in San Marino High School. And I would say it's an extremely great event overall. It went way beyond my expectations. A little bit about myself first. I'm a San Marino High School graduate myself, class of 2017. I just finished UCLA, and ever since I graduated from San Marino High School, I've been involved with the Science Olympiad every single year as part of my volunteering endeavors. I thought to myself, during high school, I was given such a great opportunity to help compete in the Science Olympiad tournament representing San Marino High School, and San Marino High School science team did so much for me in terms of introducing me to the world of science and being such the person I am today. Right now, I have just finished publishing a paper in microbiology after my research classes at UCLA. And I think a lot of my interest in science stemmed from the fact that I had such a great opportunity to compete in this event during my high school years. Before I speak further, I'd like to introduce you all to David Zhang. He's on Zoom meeting over here. He isn't able to come tonight, but he played even more of a bigger role than I did after graduation. When I was president of the science team from 2016 to 2017, he was my captain right there alongside me. And together we battled all of the challenges that came our way and managed to turn science team into the program that it was today. When I was president, we actually didn't even have a middle school program for a science Olympiad. And it was largely because of David that the program is what it is today. So I'd like you all to meet David over there.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to the San Marino Board of Education members and Superintendent Delatorre for inviting my group and I to speak today about the first ever San Marino Science Olympiad Invitational. Thank you to Vincent for introducing me, but just some other information. I am also a class of 2017 graduate and was your tournament director for the first ever San Marino Science Lab Invitational that occurred 2 Saturdays ago. For those of you who are not as familiar with the Science Olympiad program, here's a brief overview of the competition. Science Olympiad is a team-based science competition at the middle school and high school level. A team consists of usually at most 15 students who compete in a variety of different events, ranging from performing forensics chemistry to identifying birds from pictures and even sounds, to even building bridges and wooden planes, as our board member said earlier. Students typically compete in pairs in hopes of gaining medals, high placing, and in general practice so that they can advance to the next level when they're at an official competition. Our invitational this year was a practice ground for students at San Marino and teams from the surrounding districts, including Arcadia, Temple City, and other schools from the North Hollywood area. Our invitational ran all 40 officially recognized events at the middle school and high school level and had a total of 21 teams that participated, 11 teams at the high school level and 10 teams at the middle school level. As a quick introduction, physically at the board meeting today, we will have 3 fellow members that volunteered or competed at the tournament, Vincent being one of them. They're going to share a little bit about their experiences as a volunteer and a competitor. But right before I do that, I wanted to give recognition to the other tournament organizers that helped me out in planning such a large endeavor. Thank you to Elisa Kwan and Aparna Venkat for helping out in planning all of this. I also wanted to give a huge thanks to the parent volunteers at the event, all the SMHS alumni that came to help make this event possible, and all the San Marino teachers and admin who supported us in this endeavor. Vincent already spoke. As he gave in his introduction, he was the president of the San Marino High School science team while I was the captain that year, both our senior years. He has experience competing in the event, and it was his first time volunteering. Vincent, do you have anything additional you wanted to say?
Yeah, so thanks for the Nice words, David. This past invitational was actually the first ever invitational that I was able to volunteer in person for. During our planning of this event, we had a large discussion about whether or not we would be able to safely hold a physical tournament again, despite all of the concerns about COVID. And eventually we figured out the best way to run this tournament. And I would say it was a huge success, in part because the past 2 years, all of these competitions have been online, and being able to get back together in person again and experience the joy of actually physically being here and competing in the tournament was something very rewarding to see. As I mentioned earlier, I've been involved with Science Olympiad ever since I graduated from San Marino High School. But during those times, I usually helped the state tournament at Caltech write tests for their state competition. But this is the first time that I was able to come in person and actually supervise a build event. Most of the board members here found me on that day in the middle of supervising one of the build events. The one that we did was called Mission Possible B, where we see middle school students try to build a Rube Goldberg device to try to drop a marble from here and end on the base of their device and add a bunch of steps in the middle in the most complicated fashion possible. And being able to see the smiles of these students as their projects ran in a way that amazed even themselves was such a rewarding experience. And as someone who has been both a competitor and a event supervisor all of these years, I look forward to everything that this program can offer in the future, and hope that the science team here at both the middle school and the high school will continue to develop, to grow, and to spread science and the love of competing in being introduced to new fields of science taught beyond the school curriculum, to be able to better inspire scientists in the future. Thanks. Next, I'd like to introduce Randy. He is the current science team president of San Marino High School, and he'd like to give a few words to you about what it's like to be a competitor.
Hello, my name is Randy. I'm a senior at San Marino High School. I've participated in our school science team for 5 years now, starting in 8th grade in the middle school team. And I've been the captain of our team for 2 years. For this invitational, we brought 2 teams of 15 students each to the event, and it was definitely an amazing experience for the Science Olympiad program at our school, especially since this was our first fully in-person tournament in the last 2 years due to COVID. And as someone who is part volunteer as well as a competitor, I really enjoyed being able to work with David, other SMHS students and parents manning the Q&A desk or with setting up and cleaning events. I was also really impressed to see how well our school was doing at the competition. We placed 3rd and 6th at our tournament, and yeah, overall very impressive. Overall, it was a great event that really reminded me why I joined the program in the first place and got into STEM, and I'll definitely remember it as one of my highlights from high school and something that I'll try to continue to get involved with next year, although it'll be kind of difficult because I'll be remote at UPenn. So to end off, the rest of the teams not here because there'd be way too many people, but we'd like to end off by thanking David, Elisa Aparna, our high school advisor, Ms. Dwan, all the high school and parent volunteers for getting this whole thing set up, and our school for letting us use the campus. And also thank you for inviting us today.
I just wanted to introduce our last actual speaker. I'm not entirely sure if he's here today, but Larry, are you here today?
Yes, so actually, thank you, David, for introducing him, because Larry Yang, I was going to ask you to come to the podium to speak on this information item, so thank you for coming, and I invite you to the microphone.
Members of the board, Superintendent De La Torre, other members, yes, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you from a parent's perspective and to provide some public acknowledgement of the community of coaches and teachers who make my children's participation on the HMS Science Olympiad team so rewarding. As a parent, I've had the opportunity to join my children before the pandemic started in person at numerous in-person competitions at other schools, as well as watch them adapt to virtual online competitions during the pandemic. Throughout all of this, the unwavering dedication of the HMS Science Olympiad coaches and teachers has been a constant source of encouragement and enrichment, both for my children and for my wife and I. The recent San Marino Invitational competition at the high school was no exception. I, along with many other parent volunteers, experienced the privilege of serving as an event supervisor and also as an exam proctor. It was an exceptionally well-organized event and undoubtedly reflected very well upon San Marino, its schools, and its community in the eyes of the numerous other competing schools. In conclusion, I want to thank publicly the teachers and the coaches who have dedicated so much time, a lot of it behind the scenes, towards the students of the HMS Science Olympiad team. And it's public recognition that is a long time coming and very well deserved. Thank you and good evening.
David, you can't be here, but virtually, if you could see, we would like to give, I think we'll give it to Vincent, right?
So Vincent, we have two certificates to present you with this evening. One is for the Huntington Middle School and one is for San Marino High School.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And if we can get the kids to come up here, we'll take a photograph very quickly and get you on your way. Thank you so much. Sorry, Shelley. Thank you.
Daryl, since you're here, come on up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think the Science Olympiad just goes to show you, right, not only in terms of the unbelievable brain power that we have here, in terms of the dedication and how smart our students are, but really, I think it's two words, right? Giving back, right? And this community always gives back. And it is amazing to me, right, Vincent and David, that you have given so much back to this community. And we have parent volunteers like Larry and all of the people, the teachers, and the staff who helped put it together, all the behind the scenes people. It is unbelievable what people can do if they are dedicated to it, if they're passionate about it, and if they give back. So thank you so much on behalf of the board. I don't know how many feel-good moments we can have in this particular board meeting, but we are going to conclude our feel-good moment with our Huntington Middle School musical preview for the upcoming musical Minute. Music Man. Thank you, and I will invite Principal Topalian.
Good evening, Board of Education. Yes, good evening, all of you, Superintendent Delatorre, executive team, student board member. I am so delighted to bring before you some of our finest at Huntington Middle School to perform for you tonight, just a number and just a little tidbit of the Music Man. I want to just let you know that's directed by Elaine Sue Wetland, and she's directed our Before the Past with the Sound of Music. Also, we have a new vocal director. Since Mr. Jameson is so stretched and all the great things that he does in our district, and these are products of the work that Mr. Jameson has done, but also some of these students aren't even in our choir program, but they're just part of our campus and the fabric of our school. So I'm delighted to bring them before you. I also want to let you know that our choreography this evening is student arranged. So we don't have a choreographer, except for we do, but it's students that have done this and have planned this. So I want to give special recognition to Ava Newton and Monica Wong. They've done a great job. Yeah, I think it's fabulous that we have students leading students and peers helping peers. And again, it's a tribute to our young people. We see it just right now with the Science Olympiad and our young people and the example that Vincent is, as well as David speaking to our young people, to our athletes tonight at San Marino High School. But now I bring before you part of the VAPA program, which is 2/3 of our student body at Huntington Middle School. So it's the real big fabric of our community and the life and the breath. And I just want to give you a taste, like I said, a tidbit of what these young people are capable of. So I invite you all to rise from your seats.
And go over there.
Go over there, please. Okay. And I'm going to ask my cast, and one of our leads is Ryan. He plays the lead man, and they're going to sing to you. They're going to be singing for you this evening, 76 trombones. You might want a pearl to slide back. I'm going to slide some chairs back.
May I have your attention, please? Attention, please. I can deal with several friends who will wave in my hand this very hand. Please observe me if you will. I'm Professor Harold Hill, and I'm here to organize the River City Boys Band. Oh, think, my friends, like any fool they will ever hope to compete with a gold trombone. Rah, 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 rah. Remember, my friends, we'll have those trumpet players. Sid's the famous, fabled walls of Jericho. Oh, Bill and Pollard walls come tumbling down. Oh, bound to do it, yes, I mean a boys band, you hear me. I say River City's gonna have a boys band, and I mean she needs it today. Well, Professor Harold Hill's on hand, that River City's gonna have her boys band. As sure as the Lord made real green apples, and that band's gonna be in uniform. Johnny, Willie, Teddy, Brett. And you'll see the shimmer of crashing cymbals, the thunder of rolling drums, the shimmer of trumpets, ta-da-da! And you'll feel something akin to the electric thrill I once enjoyed when Gilmore, Liberati, Pat Conway, W.C. Handy, the great Creator, and John Philip Sousa all came to town on the very same historic day. 76 trombones led the big parade, 110 cornets close at hand. Every ball by rows and rows of the finest virtuosos agree of every famous band. 76 trombones caught the morning sun, 110 cornets right behind. There are more than 1,000 trees spring up like bees. There were horns of every shape and kind. There were copper-bottom symphony and horse platoons, thundering, thundering all along the way. Double bell each bassoon having his big fat say. There were 50 mounted cannon in a battery, thundering, thundering, louder than before. Clarinets of every side and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score. Strong bones, hit the counterpoint. All the return for let's blaze away. The rhythm of march, march, march. All the kids began to march and the marching sing. Marching
So board and executive team, you may take your seats again, please. Students, you may be seated.
Drum. Ma'am, I have no idea why I'm marching.
So hopefully you feel the energy and the vibe
Oh
of
my
middle
God.
school with that. Hopefully you also feel the energy and the vibe of our young people and with the work that they've put forth with under the direction of Miss Ellen and with Mr. Wade, but also with the energy of Ryan. I think he's got more energy than me. And to compliment our young people at Huntington Middle School, this is just a small taste of the life of Huntington Middle School. And so I'm delighted, and I invite you all March 17th, 18th, and 19th in the historic White Auditorium beginning at 7 p.m. Tickets are on me, so just drop my name at the door, and I'll make sure that you get a reserved seat and that you enjoy your evening. So thank you again to the students, and thank you again for this evening letting us come as guests.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, we'd like to thank each and every one of you that decided to come and help us see, right, what is one of the most wonderful things I think that anybody as an adult, as a parent, as a board member, as a staff member can see, which is children, right, enjoying what they're doing, passionate about what they're doing, and so good at what you're doing. That was an amazing performance. And you guys are just so special and extraordinary. And thank you, Dr. Topalian, for bringing them here. And thank each and every one of you and your parents for taking the time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'd like to excuse them.
Yeah, let's let them get it. They got studies to attend to. Thank you.
And I would like to say, right, to each and every one of us, right, this evening, I think, wow, that was amazing.
Oh, wow, look at that split.
He kept that silent. I was surprised he
know,
didn't do
I was
that.
like, wow,
Normally, yeah,
it's
he saved this.
amazing.
He has a split that
Yeah.
he does at the end of that number.
Thank
but-
you. So I'd like to say, right, I think whether it was a varsity basketball team, the Science Olympiad, or the Huntington Middle School preview, it really, I think, showcases the academics, right, the athletics and the arts and the excellence that we show here in our community. And again, wow, 3 feel-good moments. I think I can sleep really well this evening, at least this evening. All right, now we go to 11D, LCAP mid-year report. Dr. Lena Rickner and Mrs. Pearl Azuka will provide the board with a mid-year LCAP and budget overview. And I would like to challenge both of you to make it as exciting as the three choir.
Gonna sing the
That's right. And I'd like you to do the splits and also perform that ball science trip
So-
while you are stuffing and dunking a basketball.
Yeah, all at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you, President Jack, members of the board, student board member, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre, and cabinet. It's unfortunate that I am at this point in the agenda because that definitely is a difficult act to follow. And I'm hoping that my presentation will be heartfelt, but for some reason, I don't think it's going to have the same impact on any of us. But I am excited to present to the board tonight a brief overview of the LCAP mid-year report for the San Marino Unified School District. The purpose of this report is to provide background on the requirements of AB 130, which requires school districts to provide a mid-year report or an update to the annual update for the 21-22 LCAP, share additional funds that we have received through the Budget Act of 2021, provide the board an overview of the supplement to the 21-22 annual update, which needs to be written on a state-approved template, review available mid-year LCAP outcome, expenditure, and implementation data as it relates to the 21-22 LCAP, provide an update to the budget overview for parents, and we're going to invite Ms. Azuka to do that for us, and then lastly, share next steps. So a little bit of background. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 130, the state does require all school districts to provide an update to the annual update of the 21-22 LCAP and budget overview for parents prior to February 28th, 2022 at a regular school board meeting. There is no requirement for a public hearing for the annual update or the mid-year report, and no board action needs to be taken for this report. The report must include these 4 items in the mid-year report. The one-time supplement for the 21-22 annual LCAP update, and I'll show you that template in the next couple of slides. Any available mid-year LCAP outcome data, and that data will come from the metrics that we have identified in our 21-22 LCAP. And again, it has to be data that is available at this point in time in the school year. Mid-year LCAP expenditure and implementation data. How are we doing with regards to implementation of the actions that we have identified in our LCAP and current expenditures for each of those actions? And then lastly, the budget overview for parents and the impact the additional funding has had on our budget overview for parents. So on this slide, it shows the 3 additional funding sources that we have received as a result of the Budget Act of 2021. We have the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, which provides opportunities for supplemental instruction and supports for students. And these includes opportunities for extended learning time, interventions, supplemental instructional time, supplemental programs and activities to mitigate some of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Educator Effectiveness Block Grant, which provides professional training and professional development for certificated and classified staff and administrators to also mitigate some of the challenges brought on by the pandemic. And then lastly, the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, which is our ESSER 3 fund. And that funding is to address the impact of COVID-19. And this really is to address any learning loss that has occurred over the last 1.5 years, as well as mitigating the challenges of a safe return to school. And these are all hyperlinked. The board is able to, and the public as well, the document on the board agenda on our website, the links are active, so anyone is able to go in there and click on any of these 3 fundings and read the plan in detail. These 3 plans were presented to the board previously and approved and adopted by the board. Clicker's not working. There we go. So this is the supplement to the annual update. And let me find my notes on here. This report is a one-time report that must be included with the submission of the LCAP by July 1st of 2022. It is only required for this school year. And it is intended to address additional funding received to support recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. The supplement must be completed, as mentioned earlier, using a state-approved template, which consists of 5 prompts. And Stephen, if you don't mind clicking on the link, we can review the prompts. The first prompt requires a brief description of educational partners or stakeholder engagement and input on the use of funds that were received after the adoption of the 21-22 LCAP and budget. The response to this prompt highlights that the development of the 21-22 LCAP involved intentional engagement by the district's educational partners, including discussions and planning of actions focused specifically on addressing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Because each of these plans was developed in direct alignment to the LCAP to further support, enhance, and expand district LCAP goals and actions, all LEAs were provided an allowance to utilize the LCAP educational partners' engagement, efforts, and planning in the development of all of these plans. The second prompt in this template requires a description of how the district used or plans to use additional concentration grant add-on funding received. This question does not apply to San Marino Unified School District, as our students' unduplicated count, which is our low-income English learners and foster and homeless, is not greater than 55%. So we did mark not applicable for this prompt. The third prompt requires a description of educational partners' engagement on the use of one-time federal funds received intended to support recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and the impacts of distance learning on students. The response to this question mirrors that of question number 1 with regards to the engagement and efforts of the district's educational partners. And as you can see, if we can scroll up just a little bit, I do list all of the opportunities where we engaged in consultation with all of our educational partners. I think it's right there. There we go. And those are all listed, including consultation with our local SELPA for students with special needs. The fourth prompt requires a description of how the LEA or the school district is implementing the Federal American Rescue Plan Act and the Federal Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Expenditure, and the successes and challenges experienced during implementation. This really specifically addresses the ESSER 3 plan, and responses to this prompt addressed a continuous and safe return to in-person learning, loss of instructional time, and other facility and technology improvements. And again, all 3 of these plans were presented to the board and adopted at a previous board meeting. The fifth prompt requires a description of how San Marino Unified is using these additional funds received in 21-22 in a manner that is consistent with the goals, actions, and expenditures outlined in the 21-22 LCAP. Responses to this prompt address the use of funds received in a manner that is consistent with applicable plans and supports, expands, and is in direct alignment to the district LCAP goals and actions. So the plan for this prompt consists of everything that we have in our LCAP, and the additional funds were utilized to further expand, enhance, or support all of the actions and activities that we have in our 21-22 LCAP, because those were specifically and intentionally developed by our LCAP stakeholder committee to address the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Can I go to the next slide?
Trying to get to the tab. There we go.
Perfect. Oops. There we go. Assembly Bill 130 mid-year report also included a reporting requirement for all available data, mid-year outcome data that is related to the 21-22 LCAP. Now, at the end of this school year, we will be presenting to the board an update to the 21-22 LCAP in its entirety, The presentation tonight is to share any available data that we have at this point in time in the school year on our LCAP metrics, as well as implementation status. So as mentioned earlier, districts were given the autonomy to share and present this information in a manner consistent with the requirements of the report. This template was created, locally created, which includes the district LCAP goals, metrics, actions, and expenditures, as well as the required reporting requirements. And the metrics, as you will see, once we click on that, hold on one second. Thank you, Stephen. Once we click on it, the metrics are measured and must be indicated as unknown, in progress, or known. So any data that we have to mark as unknown. That data is not currently available at this point in time in the year. Data is forthcoming, so it is in progress, such as our California Healthy School surveys, because those surveys were administered this month and we do not yet have the data, or the data is known. We also have to report on the actions and implementations and expenditures. Those are noted as not started. Implementation of those actions have not started yet. They are currently in progress or they are completed. And as we click on the report, you can see the template that we have created that lists all of our LCAP metrics, actions, and activities. And it is broken down by goals. So as you can see, goal number 1 right there, exemplary teaching and learning. And we have under that mid-year progress reporting and monitoring. On the far left-hand column, you can see we have the metric that we are looking at, the tool that we are using to measure student progress. The baseline data is in the next column over to the right. What the baseline data was last year that we are using to measure against for this year. And then in the center column, we have year 1 mid-year progress. Any data that we currently have, this is where it will be listed. The column just to the right of that is the desired outcome for the 23-24 school year. And you're asking, why was it slated for the 23-24 school year? Because the LCAP is a 3-year plan. And this year's template, the first year of the 3-year plan, they've changed it so we have to measure progress annually towards the end of the 3-year cycle. So they want us to have an end goal at the end of that 3-year cycle. And that's where you will see our desired outcomes for 23-24. And just to the right of that, we have indicated whether that data is known. And you can scroll down just a little, whether that data is unknown at this time, or whether that data is currently in progress. Just below that, also for goal 1, we have reported progress on implementation status, as well as current expenditures that we have applied towards those actions. On the far left column, we have indicated whether implementation is completed, it's in progress, or it has not started yet. It tells us in the next column over what action we are looking at, the title of that action, the description, whether it is contributing or to increasing or improving services for our unduplicated students, total budgeted funds, and then in the far right-hand column, to date, as of December 31st, 2021, how much we have put towards those activities or actions, how much we have spent. And if you scroll down, we follow the same reporting for goal number 2, which is flourishing learning environments. Again, identifying the metric, putting in the mid-year progress data if available, identifying if it's known, unknown, or in progress. And as you can see in the middle column, mid-year progress, down below, there are some shaded areas that have no data in them because that data is not currently available. And so it's not listed in there. That data will be available by the end of the school year. But again, once this is completed tonight, we do not make any updates to this template. We make the updates to the annual LCAP and submit this template with the completed LCAP by July 1st of 2022. And if you scroll down just a little bit more, you'll see we have implementation status and expenditure status for goal 2, which is flourishing learning environments. And then below that, we have our last goal, which is goal 3, meaningful and authentic connections. And again, we have progress reporting results here. And as you can see, I mentioned earlier, our California Healthy Kids Survey has currently being administered. So that data is currently in progress. And once we get that, we will add that to our master LCAP. And then below the data, we again have the implementation status and the allocated funds and the funds that we have expended through December 31st, 2021. And this was also provided to the board in the board packets. So hopefully you have had a chance to look at it, but the links are live. The community and anyone can go in there, click on the link and review the report in its entirety. And it basically includes all of the metrics and all of the activities that are currently in our 21-22 LCAP. And that brings us to the budget overview for parents. And I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Azuka to talk about the impact the additional funding has had on our budget.
Good evening, President Jack, members of the board, executive cabinet members, and members of the community. So part of this reporting is to share with everyone, all our educational partners, the changes that have occurred when you adopted your budget in June, and that was before the governor actually signed the Budget Act, and what it is, the updated number. So what you're seeing here, that in June, you adopted your budget with the LCAP of LCFF funds of 26.9, almost 27 million, and concentration grants of 836,000. The new updated, after the governor signed the budget, the updated number now for the district is not that much different, but a little bit less. We have less students. We have less concentration grant students, and that's why the amount is less. So that it's, you can see the difference there, very, very small difference. So we needed to report that to you. And then additionally, we have the budget overview for parents. If you can click on the link for me on that, sorry. And you do have a copy of this. It's a 2-page document that this first sheet is talking about the revenues that the district has in total. If you want to scroll down just a little bit. So what this graph shows you here on the left, it is all of the district funds, and this is the update from when you adopted the budget. The total amount of revenue is about 48 million. And of that 48 million, 27 million of that is LCFF funds, the local control funded formula. Again, the way that's calculated is the average daily attendance times the base rate, and then you add the concentration grants to get those LCFF funds. And you can see that that's about 56% of our funds. And then 11% is federal funds, 12% is local. And again, that's all of our parcel tax, it's our special ed funding that comes in through our SELFA, and it's our donations. That what makes up that local revenue. And then all the other state revenues. So in total, again, that's 48 million. And the pullout on the right shows you that of that LCFF funding, that 26 billion there, you can see 815,000 is used specifically for our concentration grant students. Okay, on the next page, this is an overview of our expenses. The other sheet was the revenue. This is the expenses. And so the total expenditure is 49 million. And of that LCAP update that was presented by Dr. Richter is in the LCAP is 24 million. So that we are showing that our priorities are actually in the LCAP and that those dollars are actually budgeted there. So this is to be used. We have to post this on our website and we did present this to the educational partners last week, that this is the overview for parents as to how we are using those LCFF dollars in relation to our LCAP. And that's our mid-year report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Zuka. And I will continue with the next page. Thank you, Dr. Choi. With regards to next step for the LCAP, we are going to continue to engage and consult with our educational partners. One of the changes in the LCAP this year is we are replacing the word stakeholders with educational partners. So from this point forward, they will be we'll be using the term educational partners. We recently had meeting number 2 for this school year. We've had 2 successful meetings, and we're going to continue to meet monthly so we can work collaboratively to update and develop the 22-23 LCAP. We're going to continue to monitor and document progress data. It will not be documented on the template that we just shared with you with all the data. It will be added to the original LCAP template, which will be presented to the board for approval first, along with the budget, and then submitted to the county and then the state. Update the 22-23 LCAP LCAP. We look closely at how we're doing, monitoring our progress data, looking at implementation, how we're doing with implementation, really analyzing if our actions are effective in helping students reach the goals that we have set as a stakeholder group, and making any modifications as needed. And then lastly, submit the LCAP by July 1st after receiving board approval for the 22-23 LCAP. And part of that submission will include the supplement, which was the first template you saw with the 5 prompts. The other template with all the data does not need to be submitted with the LCAP by July 1st. And with that, I know I was not as impactful as the groups that preceded me. However, this is exciting for me. And I am ready to take any questions that you may have.
All right, so if the board has any questions, Mr. Kalaki, I'd like to start with you. If you have any, please go ahead.
At this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Singh.
No, because this is not an action item.
No, it is not.
You have to.
Isn't she has to dance.
More action.
That's right. Mrs. Chalk?
Sorry, I do actually have some
Sure.
questions. I have hopefully a quick question for Mrs. Zuka. The LCFF, so it comprises 56% of our budget. Do you have offhand a number in your mind of other districts and how much their LCFF funds comprise their total budget?
I don't have a general number, but I have seen up to 75%. And our numbers are skewed because of the large amount of donations that we receive. So the pie is a certain amount, right? And so when a big portion of that is coming from local funds, then the others gets reduced. So, but yeah, I've seen school districts, and maybe our auditors can speak to that too, is I've seen 75, 80% of the district's funding comes from LCFF.
Okay, thank you. And then I had some questions regarding some of the CAST data in general about the LCAP too. So this is year 1 of a 3-year plan. So when we look at our data, are we looking at our data as being sort of a baseline of our scores? Because we can't really compare it to what was previously done. Is that the right way of looking at what we're doing, what we're seeing here?
Absolutely. And if I may elaborate a little bit on that, Dr. Choi, if you don't mind pulling that up again, the CASP data, which would be goal number 1. The most recent data we had available when we finalized and adopted the 21-22 LCAP, we had not received 21 LCAP scores yet. So we had to use our most recent data, which is what all school districts did, and that was 18-19 data. Okay, so that data was prior to the pandemic. So there's really no relevancy for us using that as a baseline. It's not an effective baseline for us. And when we discussed that last year in our LCAP Educational Partners Committee, we really looked at modifying the way we're measuring growth in CASP as well. So if you can see for 18-19, the measurement that was used was determining how many points above standard students scored in ELA and in math. A more palatable and comprehensible way to look at it that we discussed was really looking at what percentage of our students met or exceeded standards. That is really a simple way to look at it and identify those students that are achieving, that have met standards and or exceeded standards. And so now that we have 21 data, although we have to use that data conservatively, we have to look through the lens of, it was an anomaly. The year was not a year that we can truly measure student performance. We still included it as a baseline data for us to use moving forward. So it will be considered, as you can see, we've marked it as a new baseline for 2021, and we've included it in the LCAP mid-year report.
And then in terms of the number of students who actually participated in that testing, I think we were at about low 90s.
92. I believe it was 92%.
92. Okay, thank you. And then, so there were some scores on there that had me a little bit concerned. Our most vulnerable populations. Are a lot of our resources being put in those areas for targeted interventions so that we really are serving our most vulnerable population?
Absolutely. And are you referring to our unduplicated?
Yes,
student
and I
group?
see they renamed that too, socioeconomically disadvantaged.
Yes.
I was like, that's a new term.
Every year.
That and our EL learner, our English learners, and I think there was another category.
Foster and homeless.
Yes, foster homeless and students with disabilities. So and I know that COVID was probably most traumatizing on those population groups. And then testing too was not as effective in those groups because of everything that happened last year. So I guess my question is just to ensure that we're really targeting those areas.
Yes, and that's an excellent question. That's one of the reasons why we have funds that are specifically intended to increase or improve services for those student groups. But in addition to that, in conversations that we've had, not only with our LCAP educational partners, but also with our SPED department, as well as our elementary and secondary principals, is how can we provide additional opportunities? And these are all reflected in the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, as well as the ESSER 3 grant, providing opportunities such as summer programs, summer remediation, additional coaching, interventions before school, during school, and after school, really targeting those students who are performing below standard or below grade level to ensure that they're able to compete with their peers.
So I think it's because some of when I'm looking at the budget, then in terms of the actuals that we've spent, some of them the numbers are off. And it's not in terms of off, they're inaccurate, but we have, we're halfway through and the assumption would be that we've spent half the money, but in some cases we spent more, or sometimes we spent less. Can you just tell me what was happening in that regard?
So a lot of the true targeted interventions that we can implement consistently would really occur over summer, right? So we have those students for 2 to 3 week periods where we can implement a comprehensive and rigorous support program or an enrichment program for reading and for math. Throughout the week, throughout the school year, we are providing interventions. And depending on how we're funding those interventions, that may impact the numbers that you're seeing on there. But again, those numbers are only through December 31st. Yeah. So we're 2 months now past that.
And then my last question has to do with the CTE and college and career readiness. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the College and Career Readiness Index includes CTE and CSU and UC eligibility. Like it's sort of all combined together, but then they also separate it, right?
Yes, they use some sort of equation to figure that out. But the college and career readiness, we will not see that this year on the California School Dashboard, nor will we will see it next year, but we'll only see it as status. We won't see status and change until the 23-24 school year, where we'll have 2 years worth of data to see that. But we do, I'm so sorry.
I'm just gonna say, so then the numbers that we're seeing here really are not very meaningful.
Yes, because we actually do not have college and career readiness data on this chart. It should be, if you go scroll down just a little bit, it will say not available, a little higher, unavailable for 21 and 22.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Jack. Dr. Richter, another excellent report. I love that you've illustrated here the baseline 100% meeting and exceeding standards in English language arts and math. And you go through the list in terms of looking at college preparedness and career readiness. And then, of course, the four-year cohort will complete graduation requirements. That still stands really strong, demonstrating preparedness. APs, 3 or higher in assessment, and that is known to us. So the mid-year LCAP is really positive in terms of what you're showing us. So one of the things that you did here was to show the California Healthy Kids Survey. And in that survey, pretty nice.
It's on
that-
goal 2 and 3.
Oh, is it?
Sorry.
Sorry, Stephen, I'm jumping around. On that California Healthy Kids Survey, it shows the engagement of the students, despite the fact that we've pivoted from distance learning to hybrid to now independent study, and we're still seeing the engagement. So thank you, parents. Thank you, staff, community, teachers. I mean, this speaks volumes for how great and wonderful San Marino is. Of course, this is a baseline. I recognize that. But this is a very strong showing mid-year as we're progressing in looking at the LCAP. So thank you.
One thing I did forget to mention, I would like to mention, Stephen, if you could put that, I've hyperlinked all the data sources. So next year, we're not comparing apples and oranges. We go back to the original data source to be able to find out how we did from one year to the next.
Excellent.
That is excellent.
That is
That is
very
excellent.
helpful.
Very.
It was hard to do that this year. I was like, where did we pull? So this would really
That is
bring
excellent. And
consistency.
So, and you know, so helpful to,
Yes.
you know, this meeting and then the next year's meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have to say, out of the 4 items on our information items, number 11, this was the 4th highlight. of the-
Thank you, President Jack.
And she
In
didn't
terms
even
of
have to
prior-
do the splits. She
Yeah.
didn't even have to do the splits.
But in terms of priority or importance, this was so important and it was so well done. And so thank you and thank you, Pearl, for doing this for this district. And again, it shows you, Dr. Delatorre, don't you think, how important the administration and what we do in order to comply with the law, as well as to show, right, all the necessary educational partners, what we are doing well and what we need improvement on.
We
All right.
could not have done it without Pearl and her fiscal team
All right.
in accounting. They were a tremendous help with getting all the expenditure data as well. So
Thank you, Pearl, and thank you, Dr. Richter. All right, now we're going to go to item number 12, communications from the audience regarding matters on the action agenda are to be made at this time. Dr. Choi?
Thank you, President Jack. We're pausing for 1 minute to take requests to speak regarding action items on the agenda. If you'd like to make a request, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. Thirty seconds remain. If you'd like to make a request, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. We have no requests.
All right, and we have no actual comment cards in front of me. So we will now go to number 13, action item 13A, audited financial statements as of June 30, 2021. Mrs. Pearl Azuka, I will have you present our auditors so that they can present our audited financial statements for review and approval.
President Jack, members of the board, student board member, executive, cabinet members, and members of the community. Well, the excitement goes on because we're now going to have our audit report.
All right.
As background to our presentation from the auditors, the independent auditor, this is closing the cycle, the budget cycle, the financial cycle of the 2021 school year. As you recall, back in September, we presented to you the unaudited actuals, how we anticipated how we were going to closed the year. Well, now we get to turn those unaudited actuals to audited actuals. And so tonight, we will have a presentation by Ms. Gemma Tazinski, principal from the audit firm Clifton, Larson and Allen, and her associate Sophia. I'm sorry, I can't remember your last name. So I will have them bring forward their audit.
Thank you, Pearl. Good evening, President Jack, members of the board, Superintendent Delatorre, and administration. Thank you for having us here this evening. We're pleased to present the results of our audit, and I don't have a song or a dance for you, but hopefully we can keep you informed. And let me make sure I understand how to use the clicker. So I'm going to start just with a brief overview of kind of our purpose of our audit. And really the intent is for us, our responsibility is to issue an opinion on the financial statement. So as Pearl mentioned, you were presented the unaudited actuals. And so we come in and we audit those numbers so that we can report back, if they're fairly stated in material respects in accordance with accounting standards. So the audit is required by a number of different, there's the education code that speaks to having an audit. The California Department of Education and State Controller's Office, we file the audit with those agencies along with the LA County Office of Education. The Education Audit Appeals Panel, which is listed, they actually issue an audit report, audit guide that we have to follow every year. And then of course, because you receive federal funding, we're also performing a single audit of those federal funds. And so we follow the guidance from the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. And of course, as a board, you have a fiduciary responsibility to have that audit in place and then receive that report. So that is what we will do today. Okay, talk a little bit about the audit process, just because not everybody's familiar with how we operate an audit, right? So it's really a risk-based approach. We can't look at every transaction within an organization. So we have to give some thought to what are the risk areas, what are the things we really need to focus on, and that changes from year to year. So we start our process with conversations with management and governance. And so we always select somebody from the board to have a one-on-one conversation with. This year we spoke with board member Ryan. And so that kind of helps us kind of inform the process, lets us think about what are the significant events or changes in the year that we need to consider. And then we do some analytical analysis and begin to gain an understanding of the internal control environment. So our audit is not, we don't issue an opinion on controls, but we do a walkthrough, we do evaluate and consider whether there are any concerns in the internal control process. And then we get to our substantive phase, really the meat of the audit. Things that we always do, we confirm your banking relationships, so the banking balances at year end. If you've got investments, we're confirming those. Revenue is always considered kind of a key area of an audit. Our standards require that we consider revenue recognition as a higher risk area. So we are focusing a lot of attention on auditing the revenue accounts and the activity. And then other significant account balances and transactions. And every year we're required to introduce something new into the audit process. So we come up with a test to look at something different. This year we did a comparison of check numbers to vendors to amounts to make sure there wasn't any duplication. Would we find a duplication of a check number or an amount, the same amount, two different checks? And is that something that we should be concerned about? So we didn't have anything that came up in our unpredictability testing. And then the final process is working with with management, with the fiscal department to produce the actual audit report. The opinion is ours, the financial statements are management's in the districts. And so we work closely together to pull that report together and also issue a governance letter, which is included in your packet as well. All right. So from a high level, there are certain things we have to communicate every year. First of all, we talk about the opinion on the financial statements. And when you do look at the financial statements, you'll find that on page 2, we've issued what's called an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. That's the best opinion we can render. That means that an informed financial statement user can rely on the information in the report to make
decision. There were no changes in the scope of our audit. So we come into the process with those conversations and we think about, well, what do we have to do? And during that process, if something were, if there was a major change to our scope, what we would need to consider, then we would communicate that. So there was nothing changed to our initial plan. So our plan went forward as anticipated. Also, if there's significant changes to accounting policies, we would communicate those in the letter, and there were none. However, there was one standard that was implemented this year. GASB Statement 84 on fiduciary activities required a change on how the ASB activity is reported in the financial statements. It used to be in a separate schedule, fiduciary, and now it is a component of the governmental funds. So you'll see a little difference in the financial statements for that presentation. Also, we always have to consider whether there are estimates in a financial statement, because estimates are subject to, there's some subjectivity. It's not a hard, fast fact, right? And so we look at the assumptions behind those particular estimates to feel comfortable about management's assumptions. And again, those are management's assumptions. So the LCFF calculation, there's always some adjustment that the state makes at a future time. So we're looking at the final accrual and the revenue number to make sure we feel that it's based on good calculation of the final outcome. Also, the district has capital assets, and so depreciation, that's an estimate, what is the useful life, a reasonable useful life for depreciation. And then STRS and PERS, your pension liabilities, those are based on actuarial valuations. So there's a lot of assumptions that the actuaries for PERS and STRS use. And so we're looking at that data and looking at the proportionate share and making sure that we're comfortable with the information that's presented in the financial statements. Other things that we're required to communicate, if we had a difference of opinion on an accounting principle, how to report something, we'd have to report that. We don't have anything to report in that light. We have no audit adjustments. So the unaudited actuals, even though presentation is very different in the financial statements than that report, we have no audit adjustments. So the numbers are the same. Ending balances are the same. We have no what's called a past adjustment. So sometimes in our audit process, we might find something that maybe belongs in a previous period or in the future period or a mistake. And nothing came to our attention that we would have to report to you. And as a result of those walkthroughs of internal control, we didn't have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that we needed to report, and no compliance findings for the various compliance areas. And I'm going to pass it on to Sophia. She's going to talk a little bit about our government-wide statements and then a little bit more about the federal and state part of our audit.
Thank you, Gemma, and good evening, everybody. So here, this slide is an overview of the government-wide financial statement, the statement of net position, which is a balance sheet. And from this slide, you can see the district's net position went up by $6.4 million compared to fiscal year 2020, mainly due to the COVID-related funding and also reduction of the long-term debt, which is on a note A, page 32. So the reduction came from the GO bonds decreased by 4.6 million, and then the COP decrease, and also PAR supplementary early retirement plan. And then the compensate absences, which is the accrued vacation, and net pension liability actually went up a little bit. And like Gemma mentioned, net pension liability is purely based on the actual evaluation. And then next slide is the statement of activities, which is the income statement. So from this slide, you can see the total revenue went up by 1.6 million. That's the operating grants that's related to COVID funding. And then expenses went down by 7.9 million, which mainly due to the budget reduction and also the school closures due to COVID. So overall, the net position went up. And then Gemma mentioned about GASB 84 to put the ASB activities in the government-wide statement. That's the restatement that you can see from here. That's $342,000. And next page is the general fund trends analysis. So this schedule is required by State Controller Office. So from here, you can see fiscal year 2021, the district met the reserve requirement, 3% requirement, and it projects to continue meeting the requirement. And also it's the projection is to have a 1.2 million surplus for school year 2022. And then here is the federal and the state program audit results. And for federal program audit result that we are issuing a modified opinion, which is the best opinion that the CPA firm can render. So we don't have any material weaknesses nor significant deficiencies in the internal control, and we didn't notice any non-compliance. The major program that we tested is the coronavirus relief fund, and the district has been qualified as a low risk auditee. As far as state program audit, that the required program testing can be found on the auditor report page 79. And we are issuing a modified opinion on the compliance as well. So there was no current year compliance findings and no internal control issues noted during the audit. And the prior year issue was resolved from our current year testing, and nothing was reported in this current fiscal year. And so next slide talks about the new accounting standards. So GASB never rests. So every year we have new standards to be implemented. And this GASB 87 is a really big accounting standard to be implemented in the school year 2022. So which is the year we are landing right now. And that standard requires the district to go over the all the leases that the district has, and then we have to put the operating lease on the book, and the operating lease, this terminology is going to go away. And we will work with the district closely to implement the new standards, and then we are here to answer any questions if you may have. And this will conclude the presentation for tonight, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. So if we're going to go board member by board member, and this time, Mrs. Ryan, we're going to start with you. If you have any questions.
None at this time.
All right, Mrs. Chan?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Chang?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Can you look at page 29? Yeah, the note 3, deposit and the investment deposit. My question, what is the custodian credit risk?
So that's the risk that a bank will fail. So in a bank failure, of course, normally you're insured up to $250,000 per banking relationship. And so this is just a disclosure to say, hey, in the event that your bank that you're working with fails, is there any risk of loss of funds? And so there's about 273,000 of the total bank balances at June 30th that were in the uninsured, uncollateralized category. So that's what that disclosure is. However, highly unlikely that that would occur. So it's a required disclosure, but I don't know that it's something you should be extremely concerned about.
Okay. And then the page 46, the note 14, joint power agreement. The pattern, you know, they have a district safety credit and a district designated equity. So what is the definition for these two?
So that might be something that Dr. Delatorre might need to respond in terms of the credits. The designated equity, I think, is just your balance within the particular JPA. I think they give you some sort of credit, but I'm not sure how that specifically works.
The district safety credits is held at the JPA level, and it is often generated through rate rebates, which we're not going to see anytime soon. And that money can be used to offset extreme fluctuations in future rate increases. Just as an example, right now on the property and liability side of the house, our rates are likely to go up 35%. And that's not because our JPA is performing poorly. It's because of all of the natural disasters that have hit the insurance industry nationwide. they've had a severe impact on the cost to insure entities. And so we're faced with that, and safety credits may be something that we have to dip into for that purpose.
So for the each school district, they sign the joint power agreement. So the premium they have to pay, is that based on the ADA or based on the the historical liability record?
Yes, and so to answer your question, it is based on the average daily attendance number or your enrollment. So we pay less than West Covina Unified, as an example, in the JPA. West Covina Unified has a larger share that they're paying than San Marino does. However, our rate might be the same in terms of the dollar for dollar. But when it comes to the volume that we have to insure as compared to a West Covina Unified School District, they have to insure far more buildings than we have. And so their cost is greater.
Okay. And the next page 79. So these are the criteria. So like the checklist, you know. So what happened? The early retirement incentive. Do we have this last year or because here said not applicable?
So we have in the past offered early retirement incentives through PARS, Public Agency Retirement Services or System or.
Yeah, and this is specifically to a STRS Golden Handshake. So it's a different program. I don't see it occur very often anymore. In the, my early career, we were auditing this program quite often. So I don't have any clients currently or in the recent past that have offered a STRS Golden Handshake. It's just a whole different program.
I think you can purchase 2 years of service credit, but it's extremely cost prohibitive.
Exactly.
Yeah, so districts aren't doing it anymore. And STRS doesn't want to make it easy to do that because of the liability that they would have.
Okay, and then the page 82. This one, your presentation just mentioned about the district qualify as a low risk auditing. So what is if you look at the bottom, they say the audited qualify as a low risk. So what is the criteria? So then the district qualify low risk. Is that they have just two high risk and a low risk, or they have the several criteria?
Yeah, so there are a lot of criteria that the district needs to meet. So you don't have material weaknesses in your internal control, and then you don't have material weaknesses in your financial statement. And then you have to be audited 2 years in a row prior, and then without any material weaknesses. So there are a lot of checklists that you need to meet the criteria in order to be a low risk auditee. And then for low risk auditee, that we will only need to look at 20% of the total federal related expenditures. But of course, we look more than 20%. So that's also on the audit terminology on whether you are a low risk auditee or high risk auditee. And if you are a high risk auditee, then we need to audit 40% of the federal expenditures.
So what is the sequence mean when you conduct the auditing and then immediately you decide this will be the low risk the review, or this be high risk review, or you just do in and then later you got some idea, say okay, this school district just go to the low risk.
Yeah, so generally we're going to come in kind of knowing, because we have the historical data from the 2 years prior. We know what kind of opinion you had. We know if you had any material weaknesses, and that's the base for whether you're low risk or high risk. Now, if in the year that we're auditing, you now have a qualified opinion or you have a material weakness, then in the subsequent year, you become a high risk. And then we have to test that 40% of federal expenditure. So, so we know coming for an existing client, we know coming in, and then for a new client, then there's a little more work we have to do to establish, verify what the prior auditor established. So.
Okay, and then I think this last question. The page 85. I think last year we have this question, right? So is that this already take care, right?
Exactly. So the unduplicated count is one of our state compliance areas of testing. And so every year we're going to pull a sample of from your different sites. We're going to look at the unduplicated count data, and we're going to verify that the students are coded correctly within the system and reported correctly. So this year we audited the current year data, and there were no errors in the process. So for your school lunch program students, you had the support for that. For your English language learners, you had the support for that. So it was implemented.
So now we are okay.
You're good. Yes, yes. And I definitely want to thank the whole team here at San Marino. It was a pleasure working with Pearl this year. It's been a while since we've got to meet and work together, but Vanjie does a great job, and Peter and the whole team. And Dr. Delatorre is just wonderful. And so we enjoy working with everybody, IT folks and educational folks and school site folks. So it's we're honor and a privilege to serve you, and we definitely enjoy working with you. So we thank you for that.
Dr. Delatorre will sing a song for us.
Ready? No.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Mr. Kalaki?
Joseph asked all my questions. Every single one. He had good questions, but I have none.
Thank you so much. So I do feel like this is the fifth good feel moment, since financially it looks like we are doing very well. And with the audited financials, you're doing well. So we thank the whole administrative team, and we thank you for providing an unmodified, opinion that shows that we have no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, in our internal controls.
Absolutely.
So thank you very, very
Thank
much
you.
for your opinion.
Thank you. Linda will leave the box with the bound copies for you over there.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. I
All right.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
President Jack?
Yes.
Is it an action item? Do we have to approve?
Yes, we have to approve it. Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself, Dr. Lynn, to Gemma? Gemma, this is our new CBO, Dr. Lynn. I just wanted the two of you to connect.
Thank you so much. So this is an action item. So this is an action item. So if someone could make a motion to approve the audit.
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Chang, second.
Second.
Go ahead. Mr. Kalaki, roll call vote. Mrs. Ryan?
Aye.
Mrs. Chan?
Aye.
Mr. Chang?
Aye.
Mr. Kalaki?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
An aye for me. So it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. Night. Now we have item number 13B, CSBA Delegate Assembly nominations. So if you look at your packet, we are to vote for two. There are two openings in our subregion, 23A, Los Angeles County. There are three potential candidates. They are Kimberly Keene of Pasadena, Shant Sahakian from Glendale Unified, and Gary Scott, who is an incumbent from San Gabriel. I don't know any of them, so I cannot render any opinion. Is there any board member that can render an opinion? Mrs. Ryan? No. Mrs. Chan?
Only from like a shallow search. So
Okay.
are we doing one
We
or
have to,
two?
no, two. We have to, there are two openings, so we have to vote for two. So Mr. Chang, do you have any?
Well, I just pick up one, Dr. Gary Thomas Scott.
Yes, he's the incumbent, right? I believe, yes. Okay, Mr. Kalaki?
I don't have any experience with any of the three.
With that, we still have to vote for two.
Mrs. Jack,
Yes.
I have heard Dr. Susan Heridia from the CSBA president. She is very well respected and has a history of representing our students and our board members in the work that she does. So I would like that as, I would like her as a consideration.
Okay, I think there are only three candidates though.
Oh.
They're
and that's
Kimberly
not them?
right, I think, Dr.
Just sending it out, she's not running?
Yes, no,
Oh.
right, she's just sending it out, she's not running. The three candidates were the ones that are in your packet, they have, so it will be Kimberly Keeney of Pasadena, Mr. Sahakian of Glendale, and Mr. Gary Scott from San Gabriel.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Those are the three.
Based on the information, I think Dr. Scott and Ms. Keen had both served as CSBA delegates in the past, is what they had written. And
Okay.
then Mr. Sahakian is actually up for reelection this year. He's finishing his fourth term. I just kind of did a little bit of a search on them. So
Except on the ballot, it says the only incumbent is Mr. Scott. The other two are.
I think she wrote that she had been a CSBA delegate in the past.
Oh, okay, but Mr. Sahakian as well?
So Mr. Sahakian is serving currently his first term, and then he is actually up for reelection. I guess he's up for reelection in November. So I think just.
Reelection as a board candidate. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about
That's very
Assembly.
confused
Yeah.
about
Sorry
this.
about that. No, and in his district. as a
Sure.
board member. So I think for the purposes of just being able to focus on the work.
Sure.
I would suggest if we're doing two, Dr. Scott and Ms. Keen.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
All right. I have no suggestions, so I don't know. So unless anyone has any other suggestions, no? So this is an action item, so let's go with each candidate first. Unless you would like to make a motion, Mrs. Chan, to say that it would be Ms. Keen and Mr. Scott.
I would move to nominate Keen and Scott, or vote for Keen and Scott on our ballot.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Mrs. Ryan, roll call vote, Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Chan,
Aye.
Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mr. Kalaki,
Aye.
student board member? Nam Jack, aye. So we have voted for Ms. Keen and Mr. Scott. And these results are due by March 15th. So thank you, board members, for doing our civic duty. So thank you. And we are now at number 14, board superintendent discussion item. Are there any? If none, then I'm adjourning the meeting and there's no closed session. Thank you very much, everyone.